I want you to learn and understand that the Lord is always working behind the scenes for our victory and our success. That's what the Lord desires for us, victory and success. If we experience anything less, it's because of institutional knowledge that we are trusting in more. Because it is God's desire that we have a reputation for successful prayer, for successful victory, for successful accomplishment. That's what the Lord's desire is. Truly, the Lord God Jehovah has been and continues to be our shepherd. And a shepherd leads us. A shepherd advises us. A shepherd counsels us. A shepherd mentors us. But our shepherd also works behind the scenes, lining up the right breaks and opportunities. And that's what the Lord has done for me and my house. That has led to one victory and success after another for us. Today, the Lord wants you to know this preservation from life, filled with destruction or failure, is available to all who would choose to trust Him. Because we're talking about our lives being preserved from destruction, our lives being protected from failure. That's what the Lord is extending to us. Protection against failure, a protection against destruction. That's what the Lord is offering to us. And protection against those things, preservation against those things is success. But it's only if we choose to trust more than we trust our institutional knowledge and its limits. And we must choose to use our gifts and talents to profit and to honor Him. And if we choose to do these things, then we will see the salvation of the Lord with us on a regular basis. We will experience and know the salvation of the Lord with us. We have two Bible stone words today. The first is salvation. Salvation is defined by Webster as meaning something that saves someone or something from danger or difficult situations. Our second definition for the word salvation is the saving of a person from sin or evil. And last but not least, salvation is defined, the third definition for salvation is defined as preservation from destruction or failure. I'm reminded of an item that Mom preserved for years. And she preserved it in such a manner that this thing was able to outlive all of the wear and tear that a house full of kids could bring. And it was plastic. Mom put plastic on the sofa. She used to have a plastic cover. And plastic was on this long wall-to-wall sofa. And she always kept plastic on it because the goal was to preserve the item. And what she was trying to do is preserve the item against the wear and tear of kids, visitors, and things of that nature. And that sofa stayed around a long time because of it. What I'm trying to help you see is that it was the idea of preservation, preserving something against the adversity that it could experience. And that's, in effect, what the Lord does for us. That's what salvation is. It's preservation from destruction. It's preservation from failure. It's being kept from falling. It's being kept from being discouraged, being kept from feeling like you're hopeless. You don't have a way out. Preserved from destruction or failure. Deliverance or protection from danger, difficulty, or power and effects of sin is really what salvation is about. Just like that plastic was intended to protect that sofa, and it did. So when that plastic eventually came off, it still looked like it was brand new. It did its job for all of those years. The thing about the Lord is that the Lord's cover, the Lord's protection, the Lord's preservation doesn't end. And how do we know that we are being preserved? It's because the Lord is kind to his children. You can see his peace upon his children. You can see their health and wellness beginning to improve. You can see their lives becoming better than they were before. So although he's not covering us with plastic, the Lord is still preserving his children from danger, difficulty, or the power and effects of sin. Because that is certainly still happening in our community, in our vineyard, in our locale, in our country, in our state, in our city, in our world. So what the Lord is doing is preserving those who would choose to trust in him. And he preserves us even when we don't know that we are being preserved. It may just be another day for us. But what we don't know is the work that the Lord is doing behind the scenes to line up the right breaks and opportunities for us, to preserve us. So yes, we know what God has done for the things that we've asked about. We know what God has done for the things that are top of mind. But what I'm here today to inform you, encourage you, and to help you see in preparation for this upcoming year that we serve a God that when we choose to trust him more than anything that we know, that God will preserve us and will work behind the scenes that to enable us to achieve a higher level, consistently achieve a higher level of success and victory than we could ever imagine alone. Which leads me to our second Bible spelling word, institution. Institution is defined by Webster as meaning a custom, practice, or law that is accepted and used by many people. There are many institutions in this world. Institutional knowledge that favors some and not others. There are many customs, practices, or laws that have been accepted and used by many people to hurt, to harm, to separate, to put stumbling blocks in the path of others. Institutions. If you've ever heard the notion of Jim Crow laws, those were actual laws accepted and used by many people. Even the concept of a sundown town or a sundown county or a sundown city, and institutional laws and practices accepted and used by many, in which they disenfranchise others. What I'm trying to get you to see is that institutional knowledge and its limit, because it comes from man, it is when we accept and we live by them, they are designed to cause you to live beneath your privilege. They are designed to cause you not to live in abundance. And anything that is intended to be able to encourage people to have the same is frowned upon by many. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that our reliance upon the institutional knowledge of many things that mankind has created our trust in will only lead to disappointment, because it's not intended for everyone to be victorious or successful when embracing that institutional knowledge. Certainly, Jim Crow laws were not intended for everyone to be victorious or successful. Even today, fast forward today, even different things that people do, poll watching. Why must someone go to a poll to watch? If it is truly a right in this country for people to vote, why must someone go to a poll to watch someone vote? What I'm trying to get you to see is institutional knowledge and limits are not, that mankind introduces, are not intended to cause people to live in abundance. It's intended to put limits upon man. It's intended to make man believe and to settle than less than what God desires for them. Institutional knowledge. These are examples of institutional knowledge. But there are many examples of institutional knowledge that mankind has created with the intention of putting limits on God's people that God doesn't agree with. But what happened is that we learned this as we grew up. We learned this as we grow, and these limits begin to shape what people think is possible and what people think is impossible. Our Bible memory verse speaks loudly to this point. God truly wants us to know that his salvation is here for us if we choose to acknowledge it. Go to Exodus 14. And as you turn to Exodus 14, Exodus is about, the book of Exodus is about fleeing an institution. It is also about fleeing a place. What is the place that's being fled? Egypt, exactly. Bible scholars, you know that it's about fleeing a place known as Egypt. But what's more important? This is about the stronghold of an institution. What I'm about to share with you today is the effect of the stronghold of an institution and how the institution can cause people, when people trust in the wrong thing, the wrong knowledge, they rely on the wrong knowledge, how it leads them to a harder life. So as we turn the corner into this next year, we want to have a velocity in the Lord that takes us higher and higher. Exodus 14 is where our Bible memory verse comes from, and it starts in the 12th verse. And it reads, "Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness." Verse 12 is giving us a message. And verse 12 is telling us about, not only about people's thoughts, but it's telling us about what people trust in more. I'm going to go on and read our Bible memory verses. The 13th verse says, "And Moses said unto the people," Moses' response to the people, "Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall not see them, ye shall see them again no more forever. For the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." Our Bible verse comes out of the book of Exodus, the 14th chapter, verse 12 through 14. In verse 12, the children of Israel are reacting to the Egyptians following them. So they've come out of Egypt, but the Egyptians are coming after them. And so now the children of Israel, as the Egyptians are approaching, the children of Israel lost hope in the power of the Lord versus the Egyptians' practice of slavery, the Egyptians' institution of slavery, the custom of life and the laws that they were used to living by. They lost hope in the power of the Lord. It's the same Lord that just brought them out of Egypt. But they lost hope. They saw the Egyptians coming after them, and they lost hope. And what they're basically saying is, we were better off in the institution of slavery. They were saying life was better for us. We knew where our place was. At least we had a little bit. Life was hard. It didn't favor us. We had nothing to look forward to but to get up and work all day long, to be mistreated, and then get the same thing the next day, every day, at the will of the Egyptians. They longed for that practice, and they believed in that practice more than they believed in what the power of the Lord could do for them. The Egyptians' power and practice of slavery was all they knew for generations. This is all they knew. Generations of people grew up with this knowledge. They were born into this situation, and they grew up with these customs, with these practices, and with these laws in Egypt, and this is all they knew. And although they believed in the Lord, they professed that they believed in the Lord. When push came to shove, they confessed and believed in the institutional knowledge of what slavery in Egypt was about than the Lord. They demonstrated more trust, and they demonstrated their reliance upon the power that they gave to slavery in Egypt than they did the Lord. Just like people do today. They trusted more in the power of the institutional knowledge of slavery and its constraints that it placed upon them, more than the new knowledge of what the Lord had done and could do for them in the wilderness. See, it was new knowledge that the Lord caused the death angel to go through Egypt and cause the firstborn of anyone who did not have the blood on the doorpost to die that night. It was the Lord's hand that caused Pharaoh to say, "Get them out of here." And they took whatever wealth of Egypt that they could carry. The Lord took a portion of the wealth of Egypt, and gave it to them as they marched out of Egypt. It was the Lord that caused, the power of the Lord that caused that to happen. Yet, when this institutional, when people associated with this institution started coming after them, they trusted more in what that institution would do to them versus what they trusted in what God could do. And this is the same thing that happens with God's people today. They trust in the limits that man has caused people to live by, caused people to accept, more than they trust what God can do. The 13th and 14th verse goes on to talk about Moses calling them out. Moses encourages the children of Israel to stand firm on what the Lord could do, even though it appeared hopeless. You got to recognize that they were at the Red Sea. This enemy was coming. You got to recognize that they felt hopeless. But the Lord was still looking for them to remember what he had done for them before. Yet they chose not to see the salvation of the Lord that was with them. See, the Lord was with them to save them, but they chose not to trust in that Lord. They chose to trust in what they saw. And what they saw was the Egyptians, the institution of the Egyptians coming back to get them. That's what they saw. Then they saw that, and that's what their reality. That's what they chose to believe in. They chose to believe in what they saw. Just like many people today choose to believe in what situation you are confronted with. Choose to believe in that there is no other way out. Institutional knowledge does this to God's people. It makes them and places them in bondage to the limit of that institutional knowledge. Institutional knowledge made Black people believe that the Jim Crow laws is the only thing that they could aspire to. But there were some who chose not to believe in the limits that were being, unfair limits that were being placed upon them by that institutional knowledge. And where is God in that matter? Still saying the same thing. You shall know the truth, and it is the truth that makes you free. It's not the truth that gives you freedom. It is the truth that makes you become free. The truth makes a lie a lie. The truth makes a lie fail. The truth is what causes us to become victorious. The truth.
Oh, praise be to God, from whom all blessings flow. It is our prayer at Clay Family Ministries that your life has been increased with the increase of God through this study. We appreciate and are thankful for your fellowship during this life skills study segment.